the gaming world, if anyone mentions the name Hideo Kojima, Metal Gear Solid is bound to come up in the conversation. Currently, the latest installment of Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater, is in the works. It will extend the legacy of the game's designer, developer, and producer. Born in Tokyo and raised near Kobe, Mr. Kojima is an interesting blend of Renaissance man and high-tech guru. The PlayStation Underground traveled to Tokyo to get a more detailed portrait of the man who would be Solid Snake.
I never thought of working in the video game industry. Actually, as a child, I wanted to become an astronaut, or I wanted to become a naturalist, and I always enjoyed watching film. But the Japanese film industry is very closed, it's feudalistic. Right around then, I ran into the home computer, and I started playing video games, and that's when I started thinking about working in the video game industry.
Kojima-san landed a job at Konami Entertainment, working in the home computer department. There he created the first Metal Gear in 1987. Snatcher and Police Knots followed a few years later. With the release of Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation in 1998, the gaming world could not help but notice the birth of a star.
And back before Metal Gear Solid, my games were for the Japanese market only, so I never thought about the rest of the world. But once Metal Gear Solid came out, I had to start thinking about fans all over the world, so that's a big change.
Part of that change is raising the bar of expectations and imagination when creating a great game.
I have to make sure that the people out there enjoy what I create. There are all kinds of people all over the world that will be playing my game. Figuring out what people would possibly enjoy is what's very challenging, but at the same time very fun about creating video games. Making people feel that something is beautiful or something is very scary, that's the easy part. What's difficult is making people feel that what they're playing is fun. Video games are probably the only medium that allows people to do that. During the planning stage, since everything is in your head, you can really do anything. And it's all up to me, up to my imagination. So I can come up with anything, and it's so fun. When I give all my ideas to my people and they start putting things together, when I actually see the game coming together, it really is a gratifying moment.
This innovator has a consistent style that holds to form. His technique has been influenced by film directors like Akira Kurosawa and especially Alfred Hitchcock switching between first-person POV and objective bird's-eye view to create tension and suspense. Hideo Kojima has become known for blending the cinematic technique with the latest gaming technology to create new levels of shared personal gaming experiences.
Back when I started in the industry, people said games and film were like water and oil, that they'd never mix. But that's changed. We now have a common language. Video games, film, music, everything has become so digital. And I think there will be a lot of blending going on. You'll see totally new discoveries sprouting out from the fusion of these things. Eventually, maybe even the word game might be gone. I don't think video games have reached that status yet. Film, movies, and novels, the good ones, in addition to entertaining people, they have positive effects. And I don't think video games have that effect yet. So hopefully, in the future, there will be video games out there that have this positive effect on people's lives, just like movies and novels.
You can be sure when that happens, Hideo Kojima will be at the front of the line having a positive effect on people. He shares his secret for worldwide success.
Video games are things that people play with, people use. So what I'd recommend is first you interact with different people out there. And then you should read a lot of novels, see a lot of movies. And try to establish as many virtual personalities within you as possible. Try to be these other people out there. So my piece of advice is to know people.
If you want to know more about the upcoming release of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, check back here inside the game. And don't forget to check out the latest Metal Gear Solid 3 trailer included in this issue. Back when the Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer was shown at E3 in 2000, there was a standing ovation. Now it's time for the next generation, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Just playing the game for the first 5 minutes, you'll notice that Metal Gear Solid 3 is totally different from the previous ones. First of all, the setting will be the jungle. It'll be caves, it'll be the mountains, different settings. And the time setting will be the 1960s, when espionage was the big thing, when spies were spies. And doing all this spying in the jungle, I guess what you'll see the most is trying to hide yourself from the enemy, and the enemy trying to find you. This element of espionage will be so much stronger than any previous Metal Gear Solid. In the previous Metal Gear Solid games, the only enemies were human. But as Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3, you actually have to survive in this natural environment first, before you get to the human enemies. For example, if you're in the mountains when you're climbing up a slope, your stamina is going to be affected. You're going to be tired more easily. And you'll also be affected by the weather and temperature. Like if it's cold, you might start losing your energy.
To power back up, you'll need to go hunting. Lunch might be an alligator or a frog, and of course the title-making snake. But as usual, there's a signature Kojima twist.
You're in the jungle and you'll see animals around. You can actually hunt these animals and eat them for food. But not only can you capture animals to eat, you can also capture them and use them as weapons. For example, you could grab a snake and maybe throw it at an enemy.
So it's snake eating and snake throwing combined to help battle the environment and the enemy. But you better not forget to be stealthy.
If you just stop, look around, hear something from the side, look in that direction, you'll see something. It might be an enemy, and if the enemy sees you, he's going to attack you.
And that's something to be avoided. Fortunately, the MGS crew has you covered in at least 5 different ways. And you get to paint your face.
A really big theme in Metal Gear Solid 3 is camouflage. Depending on where you are, depending on what kind of vegetation there is around you, you'll be changing your gear so that the enemies won't be spotting you as easily. If you don't change your gear, depending on where you are, they're going to find you.
And where they find you will be more natural and realistic than ever before. The environment gives a whole new meaning to Welcome to the Jungle.
Even with the drawing power of PlayStation 2, it was really hard to come up with an entire jungle with a natural environment, something that most video games have avoided. To create such a detailed natural environment, we ended up renewing the graphics engine and the gameplay engine as well. When you actually step into the jungle and when you're standing there, that sense of presence, you really feel like you're in a jungle.
You'll also feel like you're really in the 60s. It's not an Orwellian time machine thing, but you'll be back in the 60s anyway, man.
I was born in the 60s, so it really wasn't that distant of a past for me. But many of the guys on my team are young. They were born in the 70s. And for them, it was really hard for them to sort of get a grasp of what the 60s were like. We've read a lot of books and seen all the films from the 60s, and listened to the music, and even studied the fashion of the 60s.
It's the age-old thrill of the chase that makes Snake Eater one of the truly great games of all time.
I probably shouldn't be saying this because it's my own, but the gameplay I think is going to be awesome, especially with the element of trying to be hidden from the enemy and the enemy trying to find you. That element is just going to stand out so strongly and vividly in this game. The level of tension in this game is something you've never experienced before. I'm like, can I really release this game with all this tension? You know, it's going to be so exciting and scary in that sense. Maximum level of tension. I really think people should look forward to that.